is Jeopardy! Please welcome our contestants. Player 1. Player 2. Player 3. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trevette.
Thank you, Johnny Gilbert. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Let's take you right now into the Jeopardy round. Clues are worth $200 to $1,000 in these categories. Do the math. Easter. Judy. Utopia. Historic London. And Brutus. Player 1, make a selection, please, as we continue. 39xy divided by 3x equals this. We're talking about 13y. We return to you, Player 1. Add 20, 21, and 22. Multiply by 3, and you get this. It's Player 1. Any other takers? Here's the correct response. 189. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. -4 times -4 times -2 times -2 equals this. Let's hear it, Player 2. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Yes, Player 1? Anyone else? Let's hear it, Player 3. Yes. Where do we begin, Player 3? If 7x plus 5 equals 40, x equals this. Okay, Player 1. Hey, you're right. Where do we begin, Player 1? From the Greek for stretch, it's the term for the longest side of a right triangle. Player 2. Oh, sorry. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Yes, Player 1? That is correct. And you're back into some money. Player 1. Pick again. 1916's Easter Rebellion against British rule was centered in this capital city. Player 2. That is correct. A lot of clues, a lot of categories. Player 2. Make us. He penned the immortal line, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Here's the response we were looking for. William Shakespeare. Player 2, choose again. In this 13th century work, Brutus is described as suffering in the lowest pit of hell. Here's what we were looking for. Inferno. Player 2, back to you. This Greek biographer of parallel lives suggested Brutus was Julius Caesar's illegitimate son. Player 2. That is correct. Select again. Brutus joined a conspiracy to assassinate Julius Caesar that was led by this man. We're talking about Cassius. Player 2, back to you for our next selection. During the Roman Civil War, Brutus sided with this man, but was later pardoned by Julius Caesar. Oops. The correct response is Pompey. You get to pick again, Player 2. These fundraising stamps for disabled children were first issued in 1934. Let's hear it, Player 1. Correct. Player 1, you start. Olympic competition in 1900 included this type of swimming, judged on distance and time submerged. Player 3? That is correct. Okay, let's get back into this. Player 3, you make the next selection as we... The Salgir, the Chernaya, the Alma, and the Dnieper are all rivers that flow through this country. Let's hear it, Player 1. Right. Okay, let's get back into this. Player 1, you make the next. It's the quality of being useful, or the useful knife used to cut drywall. Let's hear it, Player 1. That is correct. Player 1, back to you for our next. An adjective meaning of an elevated region, or the main type of cotton grown in the American South. Okay, Player 3. You got it. Player 3, make a selection, please, as we continue. Here's Sarah. She'll show you.
Named for when it was first visited, Easter Island, with its giant stone statues, is a territory of this country.
Here's the correct response. Chile. Select again. This Hollywood landmark began observing its famous Easter sunrise service in 1921. Player 2. Nope. Anyone else? Okay, player one. Ooh, sorry. That's incorrect. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Let's hear it, player three. Right. Player three, pick again. This location's first Easter egg roll was on April 22nd, 1878. It's player two. Right. Where do we begin, player two? Her losing the Oscar for 1954's A Star is Born was called the biggest robbery since Brinks. Player one? Yeah! Good. Player one, start us. Answer, the Daily Double. You are currently in second place. Please enter your wager. Okay, here is the clue. The match is coming before the main boxing match. That's correct. Select again. As Judy, this 1980 title character, Goldie Hawn said, "And I mean, look at this place. The Army couldn't afford drapes?" Here's what we were looking for. Private Benjamin. Player one. Pick again. Judy Reyes staffed Sacred Heart Hospital as nurse Carla Espinosa on this Zach Braff sitcom. Here's the correct response. Scrubs. Player one, you pick again. From 1984 to 1992, Judith Light and this live-in housekeeper struggled over the question, who's the boss? Let's hear it, player one. That's correct. Player one, you pick again, please. She hit the top 40 in both 1975 and 1977 with Send in the Clowns. Here's the correct response. Judy Collins. You again, player one. Regent's Park was a hunting ground for this 16th century king who never hunted without tiring 8 or 10 horses. The correct response is Henry VIII. Select again. You can visit several of these historic structures like Kensington and Buckingham. Let's hear it, player one. Good. Yeah! We return to you, player one. Famous men who orated at Hyde Park's Speaker's Corner include Friedrich Engels and this 1848 Engels co-author. Okay, player two. Oh. That's not right. Anyone else? Player three? Right. Player three, you're in command of the board as we continue right now. Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of this, was known as a soldier, but had an eye for art, as you can see at Apsley House. Player one? You got it. Let's have a look at the $1,000 clue. According to Shakespeare, these conflicts began with a confrontation in the temple gardens. Okay, player 3. You got it. Player 2, you're going first in the Double Jeopardy round when we return. Categories for the Double Jeopardy round are A Century of Rain. Quoth the Raven. Notice the spelling. Animals. Oh, yes. The Arctic Ocean. And The Brownings. Player 2, you're in command of the board as we continue. This character has gone psycho long before he says, "She might have fooled me, but she didn't fool my mother." Yes, player 2. Yeah! Good for you. Kathleen Quinlan finds comfort talking to shrink Bibi Anderson in I Never Promised You a This. It's player 3. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Okay, player 1. Right. Player 1, where do we start? The laughing type of this dog-like carnivore is a predator of big game, but also scavenges for food. Okay, player 1. Correct. You again, player 1. The Snyder's is among the smallest types of this eel, known for sharp teeth and attacks on divers. Okay, player 1. No, that's not right. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? The correct response is the moray. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Answer, the first of the 2 daily doubles. And you have the lead. Please enter your wager. Answer this. The caracal is a wild type of this household pet that roams over Africa and the Middle East. You are still in first place. Here's what we were looking for. The cat. Player 1, you pick again, please. What else is new? But that the new is also called this, from Dutch words. Let's hear it, player 3. Yeah! That is correct. Okay, let's get back into this. Player 3, you make the next selection as we... It's the third largest Hawaiian isle. Yes, player 1? Yes. Player 1, start us. Its German name is Nilpferd, Nile horse. Let's hear it, player 2. That's correct. Great, you're back into it now. Okay, let's get back into this. Player 2, you make the next selection as we... Sarah will present this clue.
2 atoms of this element create a stable bond. When 3 of them bond, they form the unstable ozone molecule.
Okay, player 3. Right. Player 3, you start us off. It's the O in an IPO, a corporation's first attempt to sell stock to the public. Let's hear it, Player 2. Hey, you're right. Player 2, you start us off. To use the razor named for this 14th century English philosopher means to use economy in explanation. Here's what we were looking for. Occam. Player 2, choose again. A total solar eclipse is an example of this, from the Latin for conceal. Here's the response we were looking for. An occultation. Player 2, you pick again, please. The shortest way to sail to the Arctic Ocean from Nome, Alaska, is to go north through the strait named for him. Let's hear it, Player 1. You are correct. All right, let's get back into this. Player 1 has control of the board. As John Nash in this movie, Russell Crowe does quite a bit of talking to people who don't exist. Here's what we were looking for. A beautiful mind. Player 1, choose again. This Johnny Depp character tells his psychiatrist, "You are a great lover like myself." It's Player 1. No. Sorry. Anyone else care to try to come up with a correct response? Here's the response we were looking for. Don Juan de Marco. Player 1, you pick again, please. In Quills, this author muses, "My glorious prose filtered through the minds of the insane. They might improve it." Okay, Player 2. Correct. Okay, let's get back into this. Player 2, you make the next selection as we... The spiral tusk of this cetacean that inhabits the waters of the Arctic Ocean may reach a length of 10 feet. It's Player 1. Yeah! Is correct. Player 1, you start. In summer 1847, the newly married Brownings settled in the Casa Guidi near the Pitti Palace in this city. Player 3? Ooh, sorry. That's incorrect. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Player 1? No. Any other takers? Okay, Player 2. Is correct. Player 2, start us. Two of Robert's poems, Fra Lippo Lippi and Andrea del Sarto, were about Renaissance men who had this occupation. Here's the correct response. Painter. Please pick again, player 2. Guess now who holds thee? Death, I said. But there the silver answer rang, not death, but this. Here's the correct response. Love. We return to you, player 2. Elizabeth attacked this practice in her 1843 poem, The Cry of the Children. Here's what we wanted. Child labor. Player 2, back to you for our next selection. England's Henry VIII. Let's hear it, player 2. Anyone else want to hazard a guess on this? Okay, player 1. That is correct. Player 1, you start. In the early 1770s, England's Samuel Hearne became the first European to reach the Arctic Ocean overland from this bay. Here's what we wanted. Hudson Bay. Player 1, choose again. The Arctic Ocean's deepest point, about 17,880 feet, lies just north of this country's Svalbard Islands. The correct response is Norway. You again, player 1. On August 3, 1958, this nuclear-powered submarine became the first to cross the North Pole under the ice. Here's the correct response. The Nautilus. Select again. Elizabeth returned to London a semi-invalid and spent the next 5 years confined to her room on this street. Here's what we were looking for. Wimpole Street. You get to pick again, player 1. Germany's Wilhelm I. We're talking about the 19th. You get to pick again, player 1. Answer. The other daily double. Player 1, you're in last place. You need to select your wager. Here is your daily double clue. England's William I. No. Here's the response we were looking for. The 11th. Please pick again, player 1. Italy's Victor Emmanuel III, 45 years of it. Here's the correct response. The 20th. Here's the $2,000 clue. France's Louis XV. Here's what we were looking for. The 18th. Good game. All of you will continue on to play Final Jeopardy when we return. Here's the Final Jeopardy category. American authors. You need to select your wager. Let's take a look at the last clue. Injured on the Austro-Italian front on July 8, 1918, he also crossed the English Channel with U.S. forces on D-Day. What did you say? With that correct response, you will gain. And your response? And this correct response will add how much to your score? What did you say? How much do you add to your total with that correct response? This makes you our new champion, Player 3, so congratulations. Thanks for playing. We'll see you next time.